cause I'm on one.
You know, we have ones that's Ras Tafari, live in the city, Kingston City, Manhattan, like you know, we live amongst our universal brothers and sisters, and Rastafari is for each and every one. So it's not a...
Swinging for the fences for the home run.
Habesha, Megusana, guess the Ethiopia. Habesha, Mr. Maya, the Farambasa. Habesha.
Even further beyond into the universe, but I've got to make it to first.
Urgent message from the 12 seers of Mount Zion. They said the black nation will be blessed by God in these days. Circle the mountain and go home. Shabbat, Mount Zion calling me.
And so we round things off here by alerting once again that it is January and the annual Davos 2020 World Economic Forum is inconvenience as we speak. Now we actually have, I guess you can say, an itinerary of the things that are going on at Davos at the World Economic Forum, which is also in its 50th year of convergence. And it will be ending tomorrow on the 24th. The set scheduled meetings were set for January 21st to January 24th of 2020. And again, now the World Economic Forum is a conglomerate, a big cohesive gathering of high-ranking officials, very prominent businessmen and women, influential people from around the world. These are the people that ones would say in layman's terms, the movers and shakers of many societies the world over. So as we are actually going through a lot of the itinerary, a lot of the pinpoints, which a lot of ones will be speaking about during the Davos convention there at the World Economic Forum. We spoke about this many times before. We have many other vids where we have taken certain clips here or there. The most important topic that we have been seeing and that has really been, not so much in the public eye, has been the technological arms race, quote unquote, what they have been calling it and what it has been dubbed. And it kind of differs from what ones know as the arms race, which deals with more nuclear weaponry or nuclear development. And one seemed to have moved away from that quite a bit and more focused on what we know now as the technological arms race. And this is dealing with automation, a lot of other technological advancements we have seen throughout the years and even up until this point, where ones have been saying that we probably will see more development than we have ever seen in the coming years than we have seen in many centuries past. So that is a very important topic. We hopefully will be able to get more vids and clips and other things in other places, especially on all of our platforms, so ones can kind of stay abreast of what is going on out here in the world with much of the, I guess you can say, managers of society, so to speak, have been speaking on. But I hear from CNBC entitled, quote unquote, A New World Disorder. Colon here, global leaders head to Davos 2020 in search of stability. This coming from CNBC, January 17th, 2020 by one Sylvia Amaro. The key points that CNBC highlights here are point one: next week's gathering, or this week's gathering, is taking place at a time of heightened trade disruptions, shifts in foreign policy, and climate emergency. The other point, in the words of Davos attendee and the former Prime Minister of Finland, Alexander Stubb, there's a new world disorder that needs to be addressed. And going into the report here, where are we headed? Thousands of politicians and business leaders will address this question as they attend this year's World Economic Forum, or the WEF, in Davos, Switzerland. This week's gathering is taking place at a time of heightened trade disruption, shift in foreign policy, and a climate emergency, just to name some of the main challenges facing global leadership. In the words of Davos attendee and the former Prime Minister of Finland, Alexander Stubb, as we mentioned before, there's a new world disorder that needs to be addressed right now. The U.S. has left power vacuums on trade, climate, security, world leadership in general. Who's going to fulfill those vacuums? Stubb asked during a phone interview with CNBC on Monday. The European Union, or the EU, has tried to be a mediator between the United States and the Middle East, attempted leadership on climate aims, and despite a more protectionist tone out of the White House, continued to back multilateral trade. However, internal divergences within the 28-member union, including on security policy, has not enabled it to drive the global agenda. The U.S. is playing a different power game than what we were used to, Stubb told CNBC before adding, I will be looking very closely to the geopolitics at Davos. And here, continuing on, the main theme at Davos this year seems to be how to make businesses more climate friendly. In a report released earlier this week, the WEF, of the World Economic Forum, said severe threats to the climate account for all of the top 5 long-term risks. The forum's organizers also chose sustainable investment as the overarching topic for the 5-day event. Even before reading what the theme for Davos was this year, I expected sustainability in its multiple permutations to be a key theme. Tim Adams, president and CEO of the Institute of International Finance, also a participant at Davos 2020, told CNBC Wednesday. It is increasingly clear that sustainability-related issues will dominate the global policy agenda. There is an urgency to do something. Time is not on our side, and the financial services industry has a key role to play in helping to fund the transition to a greener, more sustainable future, Adams told CNBC via email. However, bridging the gap between profits and greener attitudes is a sensitive topic. U.S. President Donald Trump, for example, withdrew from the Paris climate deal, arguing the stricter climate policy targets were bad for U.S. businesses. Nonetheless, certain companies are already considering how to become greener. For Booking.com, we look forward to having a voice around the future of sustainability in travel. We know that consumers increasingly want to understand the sustainable choices available to them when it comes to travel and tourism and ways they can reduce their own individual impact. Jillian Tans, chairwoman of Booking.com, also a Davos attendee, told CNBC via email. And this concludes their reading here, as ones will also find it beneficial if they are technologically savvy and also connected here with many of our other platforms. The World Economic Forum definitely has its own website where ones can, of course, check out first-hand resource news, a lot of the things that they will be speaking about or have spoken about so far. As we mentioned, the convention, so to speak, will end tomorrow on the 24th, and most of the recordings will be placed in many of the public platforms, especially YouTube, Instagram. I think they have a few more accounts in certain places via social media, and of course, keeping an eye out for their daily news and other mass media outlets, which will release certain clips and snippets here or there. One should pay a little bit more attention to those things because, as we mentioned before, these are mostly your heads of state, your influential businessmen and women, high-ranking officials, so on and so forth. So this is something to pay attention to, and hopefully we have pushed the notion that ones should and have been paying attention to that for quite some time. So hopefully we'll be able to get more clips of what will be said, what will be focused on by many of the heads of state in and around the world, and many of the influential people to be listened to, especially experts in their field of expertise.